Can you talk about how you approach futures if you start now? Like if I just started futures right now, how would I approach trading? How you pass the evals, etc. Do you only trade EMA? How many contracts? Okay. So yeah, of course. So if I just started trading futures now, here's how I would approach it. So first, I would find an account. Of course, assuming what I know now, I would tell you guys if as if I already knew what I knew now, right? So if I had to start from zero right now, what I would do is first thing is I would not be trading with my rent money because with if I'm just starting with futures, I definitely would not trade with my rent money. I made that mistake and it put me in a shitload of debt. So that's the worst thing you can do. And reason why is because the whole thing with trading is of course it's psychology, right? So you want to have the best psychology, the freest mind that you can have as possible whenever you're trading. So trading with your rent money makes you ultra sensitive to losing money and ultra sensitive to wins too. Because if I lost a trade, like I wouldn't be able to have that level head versus if it's money that I'm just okay with losing. Because money that I'm okay with losing, that's whenever I miraculously, in quotes, miraculously just started to hit trades left and right. But whenever I'm like, please, please let it hit, please let it hit. That's whenever I would lose most of my trades. So trading with rent money is definitely out the question, and I wouldn't make that mistake again. What I would do is I would get some type of job, right? Because the way I went was I basically had to force myself to make trading work, which is it worked, right? But it didn't. I wouldn't recommend that path for anyone. Uh, so I would get a job, a have my paycheck allocated to certain things, right? So 40% to bills, 30% towards whatever my percentages would be, and then maybe like 20% to trading or 30% to trading, however I want to allocate that, and then use that 30%, 20%, or even 10% that I use for trading, to actually use for prop firms for learning and stuff like that. So that way, that whenever I trade, I won't have to worry about like if this wins, then I get to pay my bills. If it loses, then I have to figure out a way to make that money back, which causes people to go on tilt. So that's a very important part because that made things significantly harder for me and made me lose a shit ton of money. Like student loans after 4 years type of money. So yeah, and then on top of that, I was in college. I had to pay for college too. So it was just a whole bunch of like at the beginning, it was pretty bad. So that's the first thing I would not do. Make a save, I would make a savings or just allocate a certain amount of money, a fixed expense to invest towards prop firms because I still to this day think that prop firms is the best way to go instead of like opening your own live account. But yeah, second thing I would do is I would, as I'm doing now, I would use the ATCM. I wouldn't use any other strategy. I'm thankful that whenever I first started, I had someone teach me. It wasn't this specific strategy, but it was something revolving around this, but it was much more complicated. Not saying that it wasn't a good strategy, right? It was a great strategy for my mentor, right? But for me personally, it just would not work as good for me personally because I found that simpler was better. But you have much more complicated strategies than this. You have like ICT and stuff like that. I've heard I don't know how it works, but I know that people say it's complicated, but people are also profitable with it, right? But yeah, it's just I found for me personally, simpler is better. So I had like an 8 EMA, a 20 EMA, and then I had what was the third indicator? It was an 8, a 20, and then a parabolic SAR. That's what he started me off with. But then I decided to take my own route. I had a whole bunch of bullshit. I had 8 other indicators. Um, yeah. And I had to learn the hard way with adding too much bullshit to my chart. But yeah, only strictly use the 8 EMA, and then I would go from there. Now, that's before we even start about doing any of the evals. I haven't even gotten into that yet, but I feel like those things are very important to talk about even before I even get into the actual trading piece. How was what was the day you discovered the 8 EMA works? So it was it was just more of just me trial and error, right? So me, like I've always, since I started trading, I always had the 8 EMA, but it wasn't just the 8 EMA. It was the 20, and then it was the parabolic SAR. And then I ended up adding the 50 EMA, the 200 EMA, the 100 EMA, and then support and resist. I ended up adding an extra bullshit, right? But yeah, I always had the 8 EMA, but also I had other indicators stacked on top of that. But the thing that really changed my game was reading Best Loser Wins. And the reason why that changed my game was because the author taught me simpler was better. And I found myself, through trial and error, I found myself using the 8 EMA more than like the 20 EMA because there is more opportunities to get into trades. So naturally, I'm going to find myself using that 8 EMA more, especially if I'm on these lower time frames, like the 135 minute. Like I'm going to find myself looking at the chart and find the chart naturally rejecting off the 8 EMA more than something like the 20 EMA, just because of the fact that it's a smaller exponential moving average. So, like I said, naturally, I would just find myself taking more trades with the 8 EMA. And I ended up, once I've read that book where he was, one of the things that he was saying was just don't overcomplicate shit. Like there's no need to. That's whenever I decided to just, test it out, like removing everything else. And it started first, I was just the 8 and then 20, and then everything else was removed. And then at the end, I just ended up removing the 20 as well. So then at that point, I had good results with the 8 and the 20, but at that point I was like, okay, let me just dumb it down as much as possible and keep it as simple as I possibly can while also maintaining profitability. And that's whenever I just came to using the 8 EMA. And it was just a combination of reading Best Loser Wins, a combination of just trial and error, and just multiple hundreds of trades, just coming to the determining factor that just using the 8 EMA is just what works best for me. Yeah, there's there's no way we're taking a trade today. This is horrible. This is bad. Yeah, like I said, we're definitely not. We're probably not going to take a trade. But yeah, that's how I ended up coming to the conclusion that coming, using the ATCM is what's best for me. Everybody waiting for a Fed, yeah, yeah. And I've traded days where you have major news. Sometimes it looks, the chart looks good, but today is definitely not one of them days. It looks horrible. Only thing that looked good was this Sydney session. That was it though. But you'll have to go to a higher time frame in order to even find some meaningful bounces off the 8 EMA. You have to go to maybe like 15. Yeah. Even then it's like, yeah, 30 minute. But I'm not trading that. So but yeah. So now I'm gonna get into passing the evals. So with the evals, there's something that I do before I go with any prop firm. It's pretty complicated, but basically I understand the math behind what I'm getting myself into. So basically, because trading is all math. It's just it's you have to understand that it's a numbers game. So you have to understand, like, if you're gonna go with this prop firm, on average, how much money would you spend before you even get funded? And then whenever you do get funded, how much should you expect to get paid out, assuming that you have X amount of accounts? So it's that in simple terms, it's just me figuring out, like, what is my expected value to get out of this prop firm whenever I go with it. How many accounts would I need to purchase, and overall, what is like what should I expect to get if I decide to get X account. So if I decide to get a My Fun and Futures Builder account or a Lucid Flex account, Tradeify Flex, I think it's called, or just a, a 50K top step. It just, just understanding the math behind the account that you get. And that helps me that helps me be more comfortable with buying an account, because if I see that it's a reason why these prop firms, they advertise heavily, like on, like, for example, My Fun and Futures, they advertise the shit out of the Rapid account. They advertise the shit out of it. I see emails every single day about this account. And then on top of that, they're running crazy promos for it. But the reason why is because, like, statistically, if you do the like the math behind it, you're gonna make less money versus going with any of their other accounts, which is, and you can tell by the fact that, okay, they're a business, right? And their advertising was going to make them the most money, which they also run the most promos on on the Rapid account. And even if you run the math, it's like you're gonna make less money going with that account as well. Whenever I ran the math, so I stay away from accounts like that, right? So understanding the math behind, going with what accounts you're buying, and that helped me really. That changed the game whenever it came to my trading as well, because you have to also not only do you have to have a strategy, for trading specifically, but you also have a strategy whenever you're trading with these prop firms, because it's not like you're trading with your own live account, right, where you can hit a trade and withdraw instantly. Obviously, as you guys know, the prop firms have rules, and whenever you trade with them, you have to meet certain criteria, consistency rules, minimum profit days, eval targets, even like buffer requirements sometimes. And some of them are very simple, like the Lucid Flex account or the My Fun and Future Flex account, or like, anything like that, which is, that's another reason why My Fun and Futures doesn't even advertise that account. Or they, it's crazy, because if I go to my dashboard, let me go to it really quick. 1 second. I'm gonna actually share my screen, since we're not even gonna be. Let me just share my screen, because I'm gonna show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. So here we go. 1 second. Here, right here, we have the builder account. So if I go to start a new challenge, so if we go here, right, you have 25K Rapid, most popular. Probably not the most popular, but if it is the most popular, it's because they're advertising it 24/7, right? Yeah, the pro account, the Rapid account, and the builder account all have promotions tied to it. 100K account Rapid Pro, and then 150K Rapid Pro. So notice how there's no flex account. You can't even you can't even pick the flex account from here. So it's definitely a reason why, right? Then if you go to challenges, you have in beautiful colors, bestseller Rapid plan, pro plan, most freedom, builder plan, best value, and then you have flex plan, which is just blacked out. You can barely even see it. It's like they don't want you to pick it. But you go here, there's no promo for it or anything like that. But yet this is the one that's the most simple, and the one that I use whenever I trade. So that whenever I say understand the math behind it, understand, why is it that they don't promote this plan? Why is it that, okay, yeah, bestseller? Why are they putting so many discounts on this specific plan? Like, it's a reason why. It's because, at the end of the day, these prop firms aren't out here to really help you. They're out here to take your money. So they're gonna do what's best interest for them, even if they're trying to frame it as like, oh yeah, we're just trying to keep you disciplined, or we're just trying to, we want disciplined traders, and we want to give you the most promos as possible. That's exactly why that's not true, and that's exactly why they removed the core account. I don't know if you guys remember that. They had a core account where it was like $70. It was limited payouts. It was a limited payout cap, but overall it was like a $77 account. And then you can get funded with no activation fee. But then it was removed within like a month because it wasn't making the money. So, or at least that's my theory. But I would assume that because of the fact that the core account was the best valued account I've ever seen since I started trading, and I've been trading for 3.5, almost 4 years at this point. So yeah, that was it was a pretty long segment, but always keep the math in mind whenever you're trading with prop firms. Understand like if it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. And the only too good to be true account that I've ever witnessed in my life was the core account, and they removed that shit within like a month. But yeah, so understanding the math, that changed the game whenever I traded, because that also helped with my discipline and helped me feel better about losing trades. Because if I lose a trade, it's like, okay, I'm expected, out of every 5 accounts I purchase, out of every 6 accounts, just for an example, if I purchase 10 evals or something like that, on average, if I'm, getting a 50K account, on average, I should get like three to four funded or something like that. And then out of those 3 to 4 fundeds, on average, I should get 1 to 2 payouts out of the 3 to 4 funded accounts. So, and then, so that means that every 10 evals I buy, I should get 1 to 2 payouts or something like that, which recoups my investment plus more. So that's just an example, but yeah, that helped me really. That helped with my discipline, and then also with feeling more comfortable losing trades, because I already know the result in the long run. So yeah, so with the eval specifically, if I'm just starting out, let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen with my funny futures. But yeah, definitely keep that shit in mind, because that's one thing. Like with the straight to funded accounts, don't get those. Those are horrible. And you'll notice like you'll have a lot of advertisement for straight to funded accounts, but it's a reason why they advertise it so much, because it's, you're straight to funded, but you're having like very very tight consistency rules, and it's very hard to get a payout, even for me, because you need to have a 1 second, let me share my screen on TradingView. All right, here we go. Yeah, even for me, I've never gotten a straight to funded payout, and I've gotten plenty of those accounts whenever I was around the beginning of whenever I was trading more of at the beginning. And the reason why is because the consistency rule is so harsh. And if you lose one day, then your consistency rule essentially resets, and you have to get like a big ass buffer. Well, the buffer requirement to actually get a payout is massive. So uh, that's why I stay away from straight to funded accounts. But accounts like the flex plans that you see with Lucid, my funded futures, those are the type of plans that I get. I stay away from accounts that you have to, unless it's something like Apex, you can get 50 accounts for 500. You can get 50 accounts for like $1,000 or something like that. Then that's different. Then I'm definitely going with a plan like that, because you can trade those individually, and you can get a lot more bang for your buck, considering that even if you lose an account, you have like 20 accounts to work with, so that's a different story. But and then they're cheap as well, so it's a completely different story. But most of the time I go with like accounts where you have an eval, and it's like 50% consistency, or maybe even 40% consistency. And then whenever you pass it, there's no activation fee. And then it's like you have no consistency rule in the funded. There's no buffer requirement. All you need is like a minimum profit days, or minimum 5 days of X amount of money you need to make. Um, very simple to get a payout. So those are the type of accounts that I usually get. So if before I even purchase the eval, I'm looking for accounts like Lucid Flex, basically all these flex plans, because for some reason they call them the same thing across every prop firm. So that's the first thing I will look for. So that's whenever I purchase the eval, and it's very. I know it may seem like I'm very long winded about this, or I might be talking very very detailed about this shit, but it's like if you get this stuff down to like the science of it, I don't even think that's the word. It gets much easier, and you can trade more comfortably without worrying that you're gonna basically like lose money in the long run, which is why I was able to like yesterday lose a trade, and I'm like, it doesn't really matter to me. Or I can lose 5 trades in a row, where I'm a feel it, right? But at least I know like in the long run, I'm withdrawing like 25,000 dollars from these prop firms a month. So it's like it's completely fine. But yeah. So buying an eval, I'm going with something like Lucid Flex. Because it's simpler, the math is good behind it, and it's more on an affordable side as well. So those are the type of evals that I would buy. So Letha, welcome to the live. Just seeing that you joined. So whenever I get the eval, first starting out, I'm getting um it depends how like how beginner we're talking about. If we're talking about someone who's like straight beginner, like they've never bought a prop firm account before, I'm buying one. Just to, get see how it works. Um assuming I do know the ATCM, right? I'm buying one. Or if I don't know the ATCM, I'm trading straight, paper trading until I get it down pat, right? Or at least feel comfortable with taking trades, because paper trading isn't going to do shit for you. The only time I recommend paper trading is whenever uh, I really want someone to, understand how this strategy works, because you can't really trade without knowing what strategy you're trading. So using paper trading to just practice the ATCM, and then once you get the hang of it, not necessarily like just know exactly what you're doing, but just get the hang of it, know the basic concept of trading it. Then I would say get one prop firm account, and then go from there and trade small. And reason why we're trading small and only with one prop firm account is because we want to basically get our foot in the water. So trading with these prop firm accounts, it's a mixture of you're trading with fake money, but at the same time you're risking your money because you're paying $70, $100, however how much it is to actually get that account to trade with. So I wouldn't recommend, putting it into your own live account, because if you lose $100 in a live account, then you actually lose $100. But if you buy a prop firm account for 70 or for $100 and you get it funded, and then you lose, or let's just say you buy four prop firm accounts and you get one funded, right? Which is below average, which is below average performance, right? But let's just use that for an example. You spend $400 on a prop firm to get like four accounts, and you get one of those funded, and then you go into the funded phase, and then you lose $2,000 in the funded phase. Whenever you lose that $2,000, you're not actually losing $2,000. You're only losing the $400 investment that you put into that prop firm. So that's why I always recommend going with a prop firm, because you can use that leverage to your advantage. Because if you put, like I said, if you put $400 into a live account and you blow that $400, then you're blowing $400 because you put $400 in there. But if you put $400 into a prop firm, you're getting access to $2,000 funded account. Then you're not actually losing an entire $2,000 of your own money. You're losing $400 of your investment that you put into the prop firm. So yeah, that's another thing I would keep in mind. That's why I always recommend prop firms, and why I wouldn't put my money into a live account whenever I first start. So yeah, just starting out with one account at a time, just to get the feel for it, just to, get the understanding of how the prop firms work. And eventually, I'm gonna get a funded account, and then be able to really experience that next level. Because whenever you're trading with the eval, I experience this too. Whenever you're trading with the eval, it's different from whenever you're trading with a with a funded account. And even with the eval, whenever I first started, it was a little nerve wracking. Once you buy so many and then you get the hang of them, eventually, even with my extreme, trying to be cautious and really having that nervousness, I still was able to get funded at one point. Blew the account, right? Blew my first like five of them, right? But on that sixth one, I don't know how many it took, but on that sixth one, I ended up hitting a really good trade and then ended up taking a payout on it. But my point in saying is that taking it slow at first, because you're not gonna be able to just hop straight into it and just know exactly what to do. and what's the most efficient way to go about everything. And even you're not even gonna know um like how to control your and manage your emotions with one account. So damn sure not to get like multiple accounts at one time. But once you get the hang of getting these accounts, and you get your first payout, which whether if it takes a week, whether if it takes a couple months, it took 3 months for me to get my first payout whenever I first started. And it was a $6,000 payout, and I ended up paying half to my mentor for teaching me, and then I kept 3,000, and ended up blowing that whole entire payout because I didn't manage it correctly. But that's besides the point. So yeah, take the time to actually get the understanding of the prop firm that you're trading with, not only just that specific prop firm, but just prop firms in general. Understand how they make money, how you can make money, understand the math behind the accounts, and just really trading with caution and knowing when to shift your focus from like trading to get to a specific point, and then after you get to that specific point, actually getting into the mindset of we're trying to focus on taking the payout now. So yeah. So once we get to that point where we're comfortable trading with prop firms, we gotten our first payout. Now we're gonna take that payout and reinvest it. What if it's all of it, depending on the size of it, and depending on what you're okay with risking, right? So I took a let's just say I took a $2,000 payout. It's not bad. So a $2,000 payout on one account. I can put now we're talking. Now we're actually getting somewhere. Now I can put, let's just say, on a conservative level, $1,000. You can take that, blow it on a new phone or something. I don't really know. Just $1,000 for yourself, or $1,000 to pay your rent for the next month or something. I don't really know. But that $1,000 is for you, and then the other $1,000 is to reinvest into prop firms. That's whenever you start scaling, because now since we got that first payout, we're not actually using our we are using our own money, because it is our own money since it came to our checking account, right? But we're not using money that isn't a payout to actually get these other accounts. If we end up, we already withdrew 1,000. Well, we already got 1,000 left in our checking account, right? And then we got $1,000 for prop firms for actually, reinvest into your trading. So even if you do end up blowing through the whole 1,000, through let's just say you don't pass a single funded account, or you don't get a single funded account, you still didn't spend any of the money that you made outside of trading. So it's not as bad as if you're working throughout the whole week, and then you put $1,000 aside and then you blow that. It's completely different. So yeah, so now you have that $1,000 to work with whenever it comes to prop firms, and that can get, depending on what prop firm you go with. Like if you go with Lucid, what would that be? Lucid, because I forgot. It's been some time since I went with Lucid, since they promoted me to live. That would be $98 per account. So you can get 10 accounts with that. Or if you go with something, like if you go conservative, you can go with like a $25,000 account. It'll be $70. So that'll get you like 14 accounts, something like that, 13 or 14. But usually I recommend a 50K. So now you got 10 evals you can purchase. And that's whenever the example that I used was, if you got 10 evals, um, on average, you should get 3 to 4 funded. And then once you get those 3 to 4 funded, you should get 1 to 2 payouts from those accounts. So that's like, and that's very conservative too. At least with me, that's very conservative. So now whenever you reinvest, now you can scale. Not You're not trading these. I don't copy trade any of my accounts, just so I don't have to basically have it to where, I don't have to have it to where if I'm putting money into an account, I'm putting money into these prop firms, it's all or nothing. So either if I buy 10 evals, I get all of them funded, or I don't get all of them funded and I have to reinvest. And then even if I do get them all funded, if I'm copy trading everything, now I have to go all or nothing again. If I get a payout, then that means that I'm getting assuming, let's just say that I'm targeting a 1 or 1.5 or something like that for account balance. I have $2,000 in my account, but I want to get to a $3,000 buffer before I actually take a payout. Um, Now, obviously, if I have 10 accounts, I'm gonna trade that super conservative. But let's just say, that's my goal, right? I have 10 accounts. If I get the payout, then that's gonna be a $15,000 payout because I can withdraw half, and then they take a 10% cut, so it'll be like a $13,500 payout. So that sounds really good, right? But you have that, or you have nothing. You have zero. So I would rather, lose some accounts, but have a way, way, way higher chance of getting a return on my investment. So that's why I don't copy trade my accounts, and I wouldn't copy trade once I get those 10 accounts with the prop firm investment that I make from the reinvestment that I make. But yes, so now I would risk more on those accounts, but since I have more accounts to work with, instead of risking $300 per trade on one account to make 500 or something, just for an example, because I only have one account to work with. Now I'm risking $1,000 per trade to make like 1,500 on each of those evals or something like that. Uh, because I know that even though I'm risking 50% of the account on, and this is just an example, right? I'm not These aren't like concrete numbers, but yeah, I'm risking 50% of my account balance on the eval phase and even on the funded phase, depending on how many I got. But risking 50% of the account balance on the eval phase on these accounts. But since I have 9 other accounts to work with, my risk is I'm really risking 5% of my total amount that I have to risk, because in total, so if I have ten prop firm accounts, I have $20,000 of total capital to risk. But if I'm risking $1,000 per trade, it's going to be 50% per account, but it's going to be only 5% of my total money that I have to risk. So now I'm upping my risk per account, and I get funded way quicker. I get more funded accounts, and then let's just say I end up getting on the lower side. The example that I use is 3 or 4 funded accounts per 10 accounts. On the lower side, let's just use three, and then let's use I said 1 or 2 payouts. Let's use the lower side again. I get one payout. So now we have now we got 10 funded accounts, and then we got one payout from that, which is that's not too good, right? But that's on the lower side, and you're still getting paid out. So now you got the same thing again. You took a $2,000 payout, and then now you're able to use $1,000 for yourself, and then $1,000 to reinvest into prop firms. And now we're scaling up more and more and more. As you get more payouts, you're reinvesting some of it, but taking some to use for yourself. And or even take, if you get like a $5,000 payout, right? You can use $2,000 for yourself and $3,000 for prop firms, which now you're getting to the point where now you're getting more and more accounts, and you're just scaling up your size and scaling up your portfolio whenever it comes to these prop firms. So as you can see, right, you start from the very bottom, and you're trading small to basically get that first payout. And once you get that first payout, then you start scaling up and taking a little bit of money for yourself, and then scaling up more, taking more money for yourself, but it's not the whole entire payout that you get. And before you know it, within like the first I don't know. Some people have different. Some people have what's the word I'm looking for? They grow slower than others. They grow faster than others. So it may take a year to get to that point. It may take 6 months. It may take 2 years. But before you know it, you're making six figures from prop firms now. And that's one mistake that I made whenever I got my first payout. Because if I knew what I knew now, like I would have not been in as big as a hole as I was in, if I would have went this specific route that I'm telling you guys now. Because what I didn't do was reinvest that prop firm money that I made. I had a $6,000 payout. It was really like 6,500. Because I ended up hitting like a $10,000 trade, and then made like an extra 2,000 across the other 4 days, and then this was with Top Step, and then I ended up withdrawing about like 6,500, something like that. And this is before they had the payout cap. This was like years ago, years and years ago. So at a $6,500 payout, half of that went to my mentor, and then I had $3,250 to work with, and I was making money outside of trading. So what I would have done at that point was I would have used that whole entire payout to just reinvest into prop firms, because it's not like I needed to take, or I would have taken. Honestly, what I would suggest is taking like 500 of that, so I can go, celebrate myself getting my first payout, go out to eat, get something expensive or something, and then use the other 2,750. I think that's correct calculations, to just reinvest into the prop firms. And I didn't do that. I completely blew everything. I reinvested it into the prop firms, but I didn't reinvest it properly. I just blindly went into the shit, and then before you knew it, within a month, I already lost everything I made. So you know, I would have done it way differently than I did it uh, before. You know, Obviously I didn't know what I do now, right? But I would have done it way differently. But yeah, so that's the system that I would use. And I see you said, do you how many contracts? So if I'm going with the 50K accounts, I would do it all just depends, because if we have volatility like we've been having recently, I would probably use 5 MNQs like whenever I first start. But if we had, usual volatility, I would use one NQ. Because I usually use two. Before all this volatility, I would usually use two. But if I'm going with, just one account, trying to trade conservatively, I'm going with one NQ, because usually I'm scalping. I'm trying to get like 100 ticks, 150 ticks or something like that. And yeah, so I'm going with smaller contracts and whatnot. So that's the whole system that I would use. If I had to go back from zero, that's the whole system I would use. I would not use the system where I don't have any job, right? I use my credit cards to fund my trading. I use my credit cards to fund my trading with prop firms, and then I get super emotional if I lose a trade, because that's money that that's money that I actually have to pay back. And the money that I would use to basically fund myself, because I was making a little bit outside of trading, but it wasn't like, okay, yeah, I can just blow 2K in a week on trading and be completely fine. I can just come back the next week and just act like nothing happened. Definitely wasn't like that. And then, before you know it, I end up recouping my investment from taking that nice payout, but then everything just goes downhill from there. And then now I'm just stuck figuring out what the hell am I gonna do. And then luckily I ended up figuring it out, but uh, that's possibly the worst way you can go about everything. So um, I would go with that more controlled, more conservative way, more patient way that I told you guys about, from start to finish, and then go from there. Because whenever you get that first payout, that's whenever things change. But you have to actually get that first payout, because a lot of people, I've countless times I heard people say, whether if they're in here or whether if they're coming in here, whether if they're coming in here and they're trying to get mentored, I've heard plenty of people saying, I've gotten to the point where I can get a payout, but I didn't take it and I wanted more. I've done it. I've heard countless people say it. Like it's a very universal experience. So it's a matter of just, whenever you get to that point, just actually taking your payout, or being conservative with your account balance to actually take the payout in the future, because you might have to meet like a certain criteria with your minimum profit days or something like that. So Yeah, that's how I would go through everything. And if any of you guys have any questions, just feel free to ask. I'm surprised that took up all that time. Make sure you guys keep that in mind. It's definitely super important for you to know.